I'm not exactly sure if I'm going to post this, but if I do, if you're watching this, then I rewatched this and I said, yes, I agree with what I have said.
I'm going to do a little bit different style of video, and I thought I would just bring up the notion about why European courses just feel so much better on tour, and Jerm has spoken out very elaborately about this issue, and I know people have very strong thoughts about Jerm just kind of being a whiner, a complainer. I get it, but I think he has so many valid points that he brought up on the most recent tour life, and what I believe to be an Instagram live stream, which is kind of crazy, and here's the gist of what he had to say.
Eric Oakley made a post on Facebook a little earlier saying that he misses European-style disc golfing. Brother, I feel that. European disc golf to me is more about fun and challenge. And American disc golf, a lot of the disc golf on tour is more about challenge and punishment. It's about maximizing what the body can do, long, powerful shots that have to hit landing zones repeated over and over and over. And I get it, I'm an aging athlete competing against teenagers and young 20-year-olds. And these style courses take a toll on a body. And if I'm looking back over the last 5 years and I look at the players' injuries that have occurred, it's just with a lot more frequency than when I was originally on tour. If you're just playing around, then you can do that. But you got to go practice these courses 2-3 times if you want to be competitive. And over the course of a week, multiplied times an entire season, I mean, our bodies are just getting chipped away. When I see places like Koling, and I see the European Open, and I see the other courses that I've played in Europe, and I see that style, and I see that they are open, but they're not necessarily these monstrously long courses. It's a beautiful game. This sport has so much potential, and there's different ways of doing it.
When I think of a European style design, and I think about like Koling, for instance, and I think about what that place has, and not different availability with the land for sure, but the idea of the design doesn't break your body down and provides a challenge and is fun to follow. It's open to follow, yet it still feels like it's constraining you from just spraying the disc anywhere. And I invite that style of design more on tour. I think we're starting to lose it a little bit.
And I could not agree more with this. European courses did so many things right, and it's definitely not equivocal to the US. There are so many different land restrictions that the US courses face. There are so many great courses that just have no ability to get any kind of cell reception in the US. And not even just that, the ability to get everyone to these courses that are amazing is very difficult as well. At the start of the season, I made a video about the best courses that you need to visit. And let me tell you, the majority of those courses were wooded and very, very off the beaten path, not easy to get to. But let me also reiterate that there was no golf courses. There was nothing that even resembled the bulk of what's on the US part of the tour. And so while I know there are so many complications that go into making a live stream, making it quality, even though the quality isn't great right now, I think that needs to be totally reworked, get a better infrastructure, and rework what parts of the US we are actually venturing into, because it really does feel like there is a switch when we get to Europe and everything is just infinitely better, infinitely more fun to watch. You can tell the players are having more fun. There are way more spectators. It is just such a more lively experience. And I honestly cannot wait to get back to that area. And yes, I'm sure there's a bit of rose-tinted glasses.
DGLO has always been it's always been a challenge for me, because it is this beginning to end right hand backhand power course, but that course I think is in many ways the epitome of what kind of gets a little bit monotonous on tour. It's power shot, power shot, power shot, power shot, and in some ways it was kind of the future that players like Avery Jenkins were hoping for one day. Driver off the tee. We're not golf, like we have to embrace the differences, and I think that just challenging that particular shot shape for 18 holes, especially even when you have a 300-foot shot, it's 300 feet up 45, so you're throwing it just as hard as you are on those 500-foot flat ground shots. And when you start doing that, the body deteriorates over time. I don't know, it's not necessarily the most palatable golf to watch. Lackluster as far as entertainment value goes. As a player, I know that throwing far is a skill that you have to be, in contention. Really nice for the body, especially considering the very next hole you play is a 960-foot par 4. Do we want to make 90% of our courses like this? is this the future that is fun for everyone, or is this just the best way to get the most amount of people here to watch the event, and therefore we get more money with? Let's go back to like New London. Okay, so you got hole 2 at New London, where you have this 975-foot par 4 in the woods, where the tee shot requires this flip up down the middle, and then you have to ride it straight all the way down this incredibly long fairway, and then you have to have the most minimal fade, but you also have to achieve 500 feet of distance to have really any shot at the 475 approach. When have you exceeded the number of challenges that you have to be required to master in order to get a look for birdie on this hole? The entirety of the World Championships, you had 4 different rounds of players playing it, the best players in the world. 4 birdies in total. It's a little bit overkill, a little overreaching what we should be challenging, in my opinion.
So honestly, with that said, I think it is so very true that so many of these courses just kind of miss the mark. And I feel like everybody watching, whether it be in person or just watching live coverage, you can kind of gauge it. You know it is a little bit boring, but for whatever reason, there has been no changes and it's effectively the same as last year. And so we're in this kind of situation where the bomber long distance courses are getting rewarded year after year. And that is not to say that distance should not be important. I think it is incredibly important. Like the number of holes that are less than 350 feet should be very minimal, and if they are less than that, then it should be like a super tight wooded hole where you have to throw it dead straight.
People don't want to see OB everywhere and blah 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 blah, all those things, and they're like, no, that's not disc golf, that's not what we want. And it's like, no, disc golf has changed completely since I started anyways. Like we're in a whole new realm of new disc golf as is. Like we need to be like, okay, what's palatable for the viewer, because that's what's getting our money, right? What puts everybody in position to have great tournaments with some where the players are all challenged with every single shot.
But I don't remember serious quantity of touring players getting injured the way that I feel like we've seen in the last 5 years. Our top players are all battling injuries, and I don't think it's because they're not taking care of their bodies. I think it's because the physical demand on these tracks is a bit much, especially when tour is like bang, 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 bang. It's like you don't really get any weeks off.
Because Ezra was like, you know, I told him, I was like, bro, I just haven't really been playing that much, and I just kind of show up to the tournaments, I'm feeling a lot more fresher than in the past. And he, you know, we were talking about like overtraining. Like, is he going out and throwing too much? Like, is that actually helping him throwing for a couple hours every day in a field? Is that actually something that he needs to be working on? You can't have the spectators. It films terribly. Connection's a problem. It's just like everything is like against Woods, but like Woods disc golf is the best disc golf.
But in all reality, I feel like we had that with Silver Series. We had so many great courses that you were not forced to go to, but it was like, hey, if you want to play this, you can. Obviously the like top 10 players weren't playing those, but who cares? We can have a lull in the tour where there's not so many events that are back to back to back, and having this Q series where basically no one was ever able to watch any of these events is very much not engaging, and it makes all these events, which would have been insanely fun to watch, just totally swept under the rug. And I really hate to see that, because I think there's so much potential in reworking this Q series to become a new and improved Silver Series that is actually streamed. But if you are Kristen or Gannon, you obviously don't have to go to them, and there's no penalty. You can get a nice little break in the season, and the fans still get great courses and great players playing them. And I definitely want to reiterate, I think Jerm knows he's talking with a little bit of cope, but I still do not think that's incredibly important in the argument. We are seeing so many players that are kind of working harder and harder and harder week after week. And honestly, to what end? You have players that I'm sure are training very smart, but still get injured, like Eliezer and Culver Dolan. And so yes, while this video was Jerm centric, there are so many players that have gotten injured, and it does feel like we can prevent it, at least to some degree, by having fewer courses that just purely reward distance shots and spacing it out a little bit more while implementing Silver Series to become a mainstay on tour. And if possible, just extend a little bit the European stretch, because it was so much fun. But this video is getting a little bit lengthy, so if you guys have any strong thoughts, I would love to know, because I know this is a very divisive topic. I know everyone has so many thoughts, but it does feel like the general consensus is wooded is just better. European courses do so many wooded courses that feel so lively and fun to watch, and I just feel like we can implement that in the US, but for so many courses, it's just been the same thing again and again. So with that, let me know what you guys think. Wild Runs, signing out, peace.